together of heads of people that have different skill sets, like historians and legal professionals and other folks who are invested in these issues. But it will take all of our heads all of us combining our collective brilliance on this matter. But, one could advocate that, or one could say that, our circumstance in this country is so unique that some of the laws, the way as they're written, they're not going to really apply to us in the way that if it was a different situation. So when you have a statute of limitations that's 2 years, but you have an event that happened and there was a big cover-up and there were so many facts that were hidden and, so many things that did not come to light, and then the legal powerlessness of those who were affected, you can't just say, okay, well, the statute of limitations is 2 years and that's that. We have a unique situation in the United States here. As Black people, our history is very unique to here. A lot of the wealth that has been amassed on the backs of Black people, African people, whatever term you want to use, and we have not received any form of reparations. Apologies don't mean anything. Like, that's nothing. That's like table scraps. Like, no. People must be compensated for things that have happened. They must get their land back. And, so what it has come down to is it the legal side and the moral side. Waiting on some type of like moral, epiphany or whatever by the very people who took things from you, you're going to be waiting for many, many generations. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So, that's not going to work at all. So we have to think of some ways to make things work for us, and also be very cognizant when we make certain decisions too, knowing the history that we have behind and in front of us, making certain decisions, not readily giving away our resources, because now you have some people who voluntarily are giving away things, thinking that they are going to get something in return, and that's not the case. There's a great documentary that came out about 10 years ago called Banished that talks about land theft land theft from Black folks in many southern states, especially like Georgia. And the filmmaker basically follows these families that are trying to figure out what happened to their land. So they're going and they're looking at the deeds and they're looking at other records in the court system, and they're like, oh, my great-grandfather or this person in my family owned this land 1 year, and then the next year it's in someone else's hand. And there's no, bill of sale. There's nothing that showed, that it was voluntarily given over to this white family. And so we find that there were many white families that were using adverse possession to their own advantage in order to take over land in which they forced the families out, telling them to get out, making these Black families get out by midnight or a certain time before, it got to a certain point in the day they had to get out of the town. And these families have amassed wealth, have passed down this land, have stolen acres, and they're not going to give it back. Just go, there's no moral, they're not standing on anything morally to say, oh, I'm going to give this land back. No, because that's their wealth. That's the wealth that they stole. To them, that is their wealth. We know the true story of how they got that wealth. So you see how people, these families and these individuals have used the legal system to their advantage. You and I, we learned about adverse possession and property law, but we never learned about, at least not in my class, we never learned anything about how adverse possession was used to dispossess Black people of their land.
For members of our audience who may not know what adverse possession is, can you briefly describe that, and then how it's used against Black people?
Yeah, so there's several elements where you can go file a claim for adverse possession. And so it's basically if someone abandons their property and you tend to that land for a certain period of time, and there's certain things you improve on the land, and I can't remember all the elements right now, but there's different elements that you have to satisfy in order to make a successful claim for adverse possession. And so think about it. A white family goes in and says, oh, this land is basically, this property has been abandoned. I'm here caring for it. I'm improving on the land. I'm continuously, improving on it. This land can be mine after 7 years or however many years. Legally, my